that's the way that it goes, and it's what nobody knows. Every day my confusion grows. Falling, I get down on my knees and pray. I'm waiting for that final moment to say the words that I can't say.
All right, everyone. It is a happy day, I guess, for most of us. Of course, if you're a fan of Mr. Bernie Sanders, maybe not as much, but, I guess for most sane people, it's the end of a long delusion. The delusion that Bernie Sanders could be president, that he would be president, and that he had a chance. It is over. Let me run through each of the states. Mississippi, Bernie Sanders has been wiped out. And I would be drinking right now, but I actually had a couple of drinks earlier, and tomorrow's a work day. So instead, I buttered this scone. So you see I have some butter and some jam on it. So I'm just going to munch on it. That's some good Schadenfreude scone. Tulsi Gabbard has not been doing well either. She also only got 955 votes. And Donald Trump actually, obviously in Mississippi, pulled ahead of everyone else, had 232,000 votes. Let me silence that other tab. 1 second. I hate it when, a lot of people were complaining for a while that I don't silence other tabs while I'm doing streams. And you know what? I started getting annoyed by it too. So, I think it's definitely the end of the Bernie Sanders delusion. People are going to go out tonight, people who've been Bernie Sanders committed supporters, and realize that their dream is basically over. So so Mississippi, maybe not as important. Missouri, Bernie just got, some of these states that he was maybe you could think that he could be competitive, losing 60 to 34. That's definitely being liquidated as far as primaries are concerned. We have Landon McCarthy here. Welcome, buddy. I would invite you on, but I'm not planning to stay on very long, so maybe I can do a stream with you this weekend. Maybe pop in like I did the other time with Swarthy. I think that was a week and a half ago. Michael Tracy threw Bernie Bros under the bus for being delusional. I wanna look at that. That's thanks for bringing that up. Michael Tracy, as much as I disagree with him on a lot of policies, is a pretty realistic person. And he has to be definitely soul-searching tonight. But I think that unlike a lot of the Bernie bros, Michael Tracy might actually find something from soul-searching and realize that he's going to, he has to sort of reassess what he believes are, I guess, feasible ideas, right? Sometimes, obviously, if you're a person who believes in Medicare for all, believes in student debt bailout, believes in a lot of these other progressive ideas, what are you supposed to do waking up tomorrow and realizing that the main standard bearer has just been completely BTFO'd? Okay, and the second standard bearer, Tulsi Gabbard, got virtually nothing. Now, I will say, I was listening to Tim Pool at work today on my phone, and Tim Pool brought up a good point. The primaries are not really rigged, so to speak. It's not as if they're they're manipulating the votes themselves. There is some sort of funny business going on sometimes with voter registration, but they're not exactly altering the votes. They're not like throwing out votes for one candidate and stuffing the ballot boxes with another candidate, as far as I know. Now, I could be wrong. I'm sure that there could be shenanigans like that going on in certain parts of the country. And if they are, it's really Bernie's fault that he's not highlighting things like that and trying to research that and fight for more, I guess, electoral security. But here he got destroyed in Michigan, which was a state that Bernie was supposed to win. Joe Biden just zoomed out in front of him, and that was even despite his amazing meltdown today. Let me look up real quick. So at M Tracy. So let me see here. This could be interesting. This is a guy he's a very, very interesting person, Michael Tracy. He is a progressive, but he's not a delusional person. And I think that going forward, it's going to be interesting whether he remains a progressive or whether his views change because he realizes the type of people that have been in his orbit, and he realizes that I think some of these people are going to wake up eventually and say, look, I believed in this stuff. This is basically like my phase. Like some people used to say, this was my grunge phase, or this was my phase of veganism. And from now on, I'm going to focus on things that are more practical in the everyday sense. I think Michael Tracy might have to do that because after today, he might not be as welcome as he used to be. Let me see here. So where should I start? He says, Biden animatedly telling voters they're full of shit is perfect optically for Biden. Makes him seem like a functioning human for the least some. So let's get this out of the way, by the way. So I don't want to. This is Steve Guest. So I don't want to have to search for this later. So we're going to get this part out of the way while I eat my buttered scone. The buttered scone of Bernie or bust.
I support the Second Amendment. Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free
There's actually
speech.
not butter, it's country crock.
From the very
Sue
beginning,
me.
I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge.
Yeah, I know that's
12 gauge.
blasphemy.
My son's hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapons. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were in Vado and you said you're going to take our guns,
I did not say that. That's not. I did not say that.
Video.
It's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out that are simply a lie.
Your voice, you said that you're taking the guns.
Oh,
he just clarified it.
Wait. Take your AR-14s and what?
Okay, this is not okay.
Hold on. Hey, let's
Don't
get
tell me all
moving.
this, pal. We're gonna go
There's a
outside
lot
with
of
you.
guys.
You're
A lot of guys
pushing
wanted.
on me, man.
I'm not working.
Thanks so much.
Give me a break,
so
man.
much.
Don't be such a
You're
worry
pushing
about
up on me.
Hey, there's a lot of.
Hey. Look, here's the
Go
deal.
ahead, go.
Here's the deal. Are you able to own a machine gun?
I own a machine
I
gun.
said, are you able to own one? Under law.
Machine guns are illegal.
That's right. So AR-15's illegal.
How is that in a machine gun?
No, it's not.
Semi-automatic.
Yeah, do you need 100 rounds? Do you need 100 rounds?
In America with handguns than there are what you call assault rifles. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are buying a handgun?
Hey, no. Hey, building you don't represent like this. No.
So yeah, that was Biden today, and he still BTFO'd Bernie in Michigan. I think I ought to stop saying BTFO. It's become really a cliche phrase. So that was one Michael Tracy clip. It really shouldn't. So Michael Tracy did this. So it really shouldn't be that hard to develop an anti-establishment socialistic rhetoric that also reads as patriotic and pro-America. may sound counterintuitive, but this exists all over the world. Bernie campaign needs to find much better surrogates and quickly. So anti-fash Gordon, I guess, who's an Antifa person, says, if Michael Tracy wonders why people think he's a fascist, it's probably because he's inventing National Socialism on Twitter.com. You said you sent that to me on Hangouts. So, it might be the other Hangouts. 1 second. Okay. This should be fun. Sincere question for Bernie supporters. Do you think you were well served by the Bernie social media echo chamber where podcasters, YouTubers, and Twitter personalities triumphantly declared Bernie will win and never had a critical thing to say about the campaign strategy? So replies, Aaron Bastani. So Aaron Bastani, I want people to understand. So he's the author of Fully Automated Luxury Communism and the co-founder of Novara Media. This is a person who only 3 months ago was at ground zero of another massive fail in terms of left-wing electoral politics when he was one of the people who promoted the ultra-woke Jeremy Corbyn campaign. He says, in defense of a fair few people, I think nobody foresaw the tenacity and unscrupulousness of the Democratic establishment. It's a tough but probably invaluable lesson for generations of activists who will undoubtedly reshape America. So everybody knows that that's true. That's not what Michael Tracy is talking about. There's a difference for those of you that don't, comprende. There's a major difference between the fact that the DNC did try and go out of its way to dick several counterculture candidates like Marianne Williamson, like Tulsi Gabbard, also like Bernie in some sense, Andrew Yang a little bit. I wouldn't say that Andrew Yang was significantly hampered, but there were points where you were like, what the hell? But this was not just the fault of the DNC. Bernie Sanders has given up on really having the type of belief system that Michael Tracy was talking about in this tweet, where, you know, you do stand up for actual American interests while, you know, promoting socialism. And somebody said, if Michael Tracy wonders why people think he's a fascist, it's probably because he's inventing National Socialism on Twitter.com. That is a little funny. I'm not going to lie. Because, in a sense, you could see why somebody would take it that way. That's why I oppose socialism entirely. Whether woke socialism or national socialism, or I don't support any type. Zero Books. Zero Books analyzes the world from the left. There were some critics of that echo chamber. I recall people wanting Bernie to go negative earlier. Harvey K was on her channel saying Bernie should talk about FDR and the American radical tradition more. People thought he shouldn't commit to blue no matter who. Okay, there you go. There are a couple of interesting points. Cenk Uygur said, if people are wondering why Bernie Sanders supporters are worried even though Biden only has slim lead in delegate count, it's because the oppressive propaganda of the national media became unstoppable. They put out hundreds of millions of dollars of free media in favor of Biden. Anna Kasparian says, don't allow yourself to be gaslit by these corporatists who pretend they want to defeat Trump. We all know the truth. Biden doesn't stand a damn chance against Trump due to vulnerabilities in his record and cognitive decline. We all see it. Don't insult our intelligence. So that's it. She can't. Now she's crossed the Rubicon. She has to admit, and she has admitted that she's basically a believer in this Biden cognitive decline, which I don't know how you can say you're not anymore. If you don't think that Biden has lost his marbles, then you might have to be in the same type of home that he is. Rania Khalek, also a real bitter beer drinker, although she's smoking hot. The polls look terrible for today. I don't know what happened. I don't understand how Biden is in such a good position. He doesn't have the enthusiasm. His record is terrible, and he can't form a coherent sentence. I just don't get it. And you lost, Rania Khalek. It's over. A lot of these people, they don't realize that it's not only your opponent. Sometimes you are making all the mistakes, and you just want to believe everyone else is being negative and that you're perfect. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to apologize for. Bernie and TYT will endorse Biden. I have no doubt that they will end up having to support him and endorse him, because where for do they go now? They don't have any more. They don't have any more arrows in their quiver. They're done. They are done. Their attempt to take over the Democratic Party has met its Waterloo. It is over. Some of these progressive surrogates for Bernie Sanders are probably going to what they should be doing, by the way, is trying to focus on campaigning in their districts to keep their seats, which I think in some cases it's not going to happen. I think Ilhan Omar could be primaried and voted out because people are going to get tired of having to pretend that she didn't marry her brother, that she didn't have some sort of fake marriage with her brother. At least you would hope it's a fake marriage. Secular Talk, Kyle Kalinsky says, there is an irreconcilable schism in the Democratic Party as the party of the professional class, well-educated and well-paid suburbanites. It also wants to be the party of the working class. The problem is they stopped even making overtures to the working class. And I think he's sort of right. But let's see what some of Tracy's replies were. Tracy says, it's not true that nobody foresaw this, and the atrophy of Bernie's support among critical demographics cannot be exclusively blamed on the Democratic establishment. It's a failure of the left. See? Aaron Bastani replies, it's one thing to apprehend, another to comprehend. Nobody had seen former, at least in the UK, there was memory of anti-left push in the 80s. Was a machine built to deal with that? Doesn't look like it, no. So Tracy says, in response to that, Bernie's campaign had an astronomical amount of money, like historic levels, far more than Biden. They had a candidate with universal name recognition who won 46% of delegates in 2016 and never stopped running for president. They had 4 years to plan. Yes, I am blaming them. So Bastani replies, I'm seeing something similar to here. Broadcast media hammered him, particularly on his own side. A world-class field operation only goes so far, and TV, particularly among 60s, is still gold. Probably more than 2016 because of changed Facebook algorithm. So these are people that were talking about banning people. Michael Tracy, no. Michael Tracy, I believe, is more of a free speech person. But Aaron Bastani of Novara, they were happy for people to be banned. Happy. They would have loved for Sargon of Akkad to be banned. They loved it when Alex Jones got banned. They loved it when Tommy Robinson got banned. They'd be happy if Mark Collette got banned. And look, I disagree with Mark Collette. I wouldn't say not only do I disagree, I dislike him. I've never wanted him to get banned. And these people are being especially facetious because they think, oh, our ideas are good, therefore we shouldn't get banned. But now that the media is turning on them, they're saying, no, this censorship. This censorship, it's so unjust. Well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. And it would be a scone, although I just ate I had 2 of them. They were scrumptious scones. You have Ophir. What's up, dude? Happy night. Thanks for joining. I recently heard a saying, the long road to the institution and BS. Just herded the sheep. Len McCarthy says, Bernie's message 4 years ago was better. He's selling out and getting more globalist and pushing identity politics more all the time. Yeah, he's really, he says, oh, I haven't changed my views. It's the same thing that I've preached for years. Let me tell you something. Immigration wrecked him, and then eventually that and everything else caught up to him. If he would have been the staunchest immigration hawk, broken from the DNC in 2016 and everything, and said, look, I'm going to field a party for the workers and the workers and worker interests and not have to deal with what the media wants me to do, maybe he could have, not only that, he shouldn't even have been in this primary. He should have probably ran on his own and been his own brand, and instead he's trying to take over the Democratic Party. It was a failure to begin with, and you know what? I'm glad it was a failure because he's an awful person and he deserves to lose. He's awful in every way. Doesn't matter what type of person you are. I think it's a better country tomorrow now that Bernie Sanders is effectively not viable. And I'm not saying that it's completely fair what the DNC was doing to him and others in terms of their manipulations and shenanigans and all that. I'm not justifying what they did. I'm just saying that it is what it is. He's an awful human being, an awful politician, a piece of crap, and that's it. The Bernie Sanders political career is virtually over tonight. Let's hop back to the results again. So even in Idaho, which he supposedly was supposed to win going away, it appears that Joe Biden might actually win Idaho, which is a state that Bernie Sanders won in 2016. So he might lose Idaho, which he won in 2016. He did lose Michigan, which he won in 2016. He got wiped out in Mississippi and Missouri. Let's see. Washington was very close for a while. and it's still very close. So Bernie Sanders might eke out a win tonight in Washington State, and I think last I checked, he was also leading in North Dakota, which doesn't matter. So great. So he'll come out winning way far ahead in North Dakota. Good for him. That didn't help him last time. I think he's on track to do worse this year than he did in 2016. Much worse. This is the imam from the Bernie rally. He has some interesting theories about how ISIS and Israel are working together. So Zaid Gilani says 95% of Muslim Americans are normies who are never involved in weird sectarian scandals, and the other 5% are all Bernie Sanders surrogates. This is a Muslim. Okay, and by the way, I think that we're seeing certain people who are far left anyway start to say, you know what, something is messed up here. When you have Zaid Gilani, his name sounds very familiar. He's a guy from The Intercept. So a guy who was an Intercept writer, and who writes on all of these other platforms. This is a guy who endorsed Bernie Sanders and supported him.
إخوتي وأخواتي، هذه فرصتنا لانتخاب رئيس منصف في الولايات المتحدة. هذه فرصتنا لانتخاب رئيس عادل وشجاع للولايات المتحدة. لأول مرة نجد هناك من يدافع عن حقوقنا كمسلمين وكعرب.
So I think he said that Bernie Sanders, my Arabic isn't great, but I do know some. I think he said that Bernie as president would be good for the Muslim law. Which okay, so maybe don't like. By the way, this is a very cool T-shirt. It says Bernie in Arabic. That is actually pretty cool. I always thought Arabic language is pretty nice. So this guy says the imam from the Bernie rally is also a big supporter of Bashar al-Assad, and he is. What do you want? I'm sorry. I guess that's okay, but most people. And then Max Blumenthal jumps in and says, "Yeah, it's true. Look. There were some. So there were the Free Syrian Army was originally the anti. Here it says not conceding your premise, but just the fact that you don't distinguish between Al Qaeda and ISIS. So is the disingenuousness of your argument, even in your construction, which again I am not agreeing with. Israel would have been supporting a group fighting against ISIS. So Blumenthal says Israel has repeatedly attacked Hamas as it battled Salafi IS elements and attacked the Syrian army as it did. And so this is another example of people. Hamas is an enemy of Israel, and it also has other enemies who are Salafis, who are what would you call them? Wahhabists, or even worse. That doesn't make Hamas a good organization. That makes it the fact that they have other enemies. So Shirley Rosalie, hi from the Northeast Bronx. Well, hello. I didn't know you're from the Bronx. Do you know Benny Blanco? That's a movie reference if you don't know. It's clear Israel provided a wide variety of support to rebel groups of all stripes fighting Assad, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran. But to claim ISIS is the arm of the Zionists in the Muslim world is simply not supported by the evidence. And the claim ISIS has never attacked Israel is factually incorrect. Israel supported the opposition quietly, as does the United States. Blaming Zionists for ISIS together with the other Jew comments reveals a pattern of anti-Semitism. So then Blumenthal says, they apologized the one time that they did attack them. ISIS's al-Quraishis. So Blumenthal gets pissed off because Rogan cites the Jerusalem Post, which he claims is an Islamophobic website, to paint the imam as a lunatic. Turns out there's a reason many people from the region see it the way he does. For what it's worth, I see ISIS as as byproduct of U.S. invasion of Iraq and CIA arming, quote, rebels in Syria, which you backed. Don't want to be defensive at all. I'm just enjoying this interaction, but I simply don't agree with you that memory is... So that we're getting into the weeds here. Jennifer Rubin, who herself is a joke, says, "What? How does Sanders not get held responsible for this?" Max, Bernie doesn't agree with you and the imam about the Zionist-ISIS alliance, just FYI. Sanders' campaign manager, Faiz Shakir, the campaign has been made aware of offensive and toxic past statements by Imam Qazwini. These statements are dangerous, hateful, and violate the principles of our movement, which is based on values of equality and dignity. So that this is interesting. I didn't plan to get into this. It's kind of funny, though. Imam Qazwini, Bernie Sanders. So this is, he actually said, even though he's a Jew, Sanders is honorable. This is the best backhanded compliment I've heard. I think I actually did know, somebody did say that, something like that to me. Like, you're okay even though you're Jewish. An imam who spoke at a Bernie Sanders campaign rally in Michigan once said that he thought Sanders was an honorable man even though he is a Jew. Imam Syed Qassam Qazwini of the Islamic Institute of America was one of several figures who spoke before Sanders at a rally. Can anybody, this is basically like the Spinal Tap of presidential campaigns. So yeah, I think it's insane. I think it's insane. Bernie Sanders, he released that stupid video where he's talking about, I'm proud of my Jewish heritage. Yeah, he has this guy as his surrogate. It shows just how he, throws it away. Now I don't care if people want to be friends personally with people who have opinions that are very far out there. I have no problem. I have no problem with people talking to them. I wouldn't have somebody like that as my representative, which is what a surrogate is. So then it says, Andrew Cuomo is living his best life when he's in charge of dealing with a public health crisis. He loves that. Other aspects of the job, like delivering on legislative promises, seem to annoy him. So then Michael Tracy says, this is pretty funny, might explicitly grift off whatever remains of the progressive movement by designing, marketing, and producing Bernie-themed American flag pins. So people are like really going after him. You might make more money with Bernie-themed hammer and sickle pins. Make them Soviet flags, and you might be onto something. Michael Tracy is done with the left. I think he's come to the conclusion that they don't have any. They've become incoherent. They don't have any. They've lost all sense of reality. It's done. Let's get back to the Michael Tracy tweets. Biden wins black voters in Mississippi by a staggering 71%. 71%. Sorry, I don't believe this was inevitable. Did Biden always have an advantage with black voters in the South? Yes, but writing it off as inevitable is an excuse. Yeah, but Bernie didn't really campaign in the South. And I remember saying at some point that, I think it was early in his 2020 campaign, that he has never broken through in the South, and that unfortunately, if he would have invested a little bit more time there in 2016, maybe he would have really, really jeopardized Hillary Clinton. But he didn't, and he's seeing the results of that. And people would like to say, what does it matter? You're not going to win Mississippi. You're not going to win Missouri anymore. Missouri has become a staunchly red state. But, some of these states, like it or not, they're Democratic. They do have significant populations of people who vote Democrat. They just don't happen to be the majority. And those kind of the primary too. You can't just make the primary about states that vote Democrat or swing states, because otherwise you're admitting that the party is only a regional curiosity. So let me see what happened. I don't see anybody chatting. I want you guys chatty and as let me see here. Let me put on the live chat. So yeah, Michael Tracy just nuked them. You know what? I'm gonna watch. I want to hear from Lennon tonight. I don't have enough time to really delve into it. I know that if I bring him onto the stream, we're just going to go on for a very long time, and I actually have to get up very early. So, but I will tune in on Saturday night when he has his Lennon and Swarthy stream. So it says Missouri primary immediately called for Biden, another state that Bernie overperformed in the last cycle, but this year became impossible for reasons that I'm sure had absolutely nothing to do with strategic decisions of the Bernie campaign and is exclusively the fault of others. Biden won all Mississippi voters age 45 and up by 74%. Again, did Biden have a clear advantage in this state? Yes, but guess what? Bernie had 4 years with universal name recognition and almost unlimited money, a lot more money than Biden, in fact. This is a failure of the left. Biden wins Michigan primary. Unless Biden's brain explodes, which is still impossible, that's all she wrote, folks. Michael Tracy says, I see no reason why Bernie should drop out anytime soon, even after losing Michigan, which is an embarrassment. But still, we have a pandemic underway, and Biden's in rapid cognitive decline. So there could easily be another seismic shift in the race. Long shot, but not impossible. That's I guess. I guess that's it's possible that could happen. I don't see it happening. I think Biden survives enough to wrap up the nomination, and then afterward possibly could implode, or you could even see legal trouble with everything Hunter Biden's going through. He actually canceled a court date today, claiming that the coronavirus jeopardizes his health if he travels to Arkansas. So it's pretty funny. I don't know if the judge is gonna grant that continuance. Miles Park says, Representative Clyburn on NPR just now, I think when the night is over, Joe Biden will be the prohibitive favorite to win the Democratic nomination. If the night ends the way it has begun, it's time to shut this primary down, meaning the DNC should step in and cancel the future debates. That's pretty funny. That is funny. They are just axing this. They're taking the axe handle and beating Bernie over the head with it. Dems and Biden will parrot Clyburn here because he's seen as the most powerful party boss in the country. They will blame any desire to continue the race on Bernie wanting to help Russia and Trump. Sincerest question for Bernie supporters. Do you think you were well served by the Bernie social media echo chamber where podcasters, YouTubers, and Twitter personalities triumphantly declared Bernie will win and never had a critical thing to say about the campaign strategy? Yeah. This was a huge, it was a 3-year cock tease for many of these Bernie people, and they fell flat. It's completely, here's another one. I'm going to keep saying it. So Michael Tracy says, I'm going to keep saying it. Bernie got Russiagated, and not only that, he abetted his own Russiagating by accepting the premise of false intelligence community attacks. If you don't think this influences the perceptions of normie Dem primary voters, you're certifiably insane. Yeah, this is exactly. So I was going to talk about this. This was published last week on March 3rd. So the night of last week's primary by me. Fake radical Bernie Sanders colludes with the DNC and the establishment. I'm going to put this in the chat. And you can read through that. And this is really why I think not only was he going to lose, he deserves to lose, because It says the Vermont socialist had the chance to take a stand for his innocent supporters, diffusing tensions with the nuclear power and curbing the abuses of the deep state and justice system along the way. In each case, he chose to go along to get along. This is definitely consistently treacherous. The man is garbage. Okay, he's garbage. The fact that he stood on the Senate floor and harangued the other members about how Donald Trump in Helsinki was doing something was basically Putin's puppet, when he knew full well that there's no evidence of that. He didn't know. Look, as a senator, you're not the president. Okay, you're not the president. Obviously, you get to say things that and get a platform that most of us don't get to have. That doesn't mean that people need to listen to your bullshit. And the fact that this is a person who, for many years, was pretending, oh, I'm going to be a peace activist going to Russia. Meanwhile, he's essentially trying to copy their economic policies, the ones that only a short time later basically collapsed around them. Bernie Sanders is a piece of trash. And if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, you deserve better. There was a better candidate, by the way, for people who were against the DNC establishment. Her name was Tulsi Gabbard. But by the way, you could have voted for some of the Marianne Williamson. Maybe not my cup of tea. I didn't believe in the reparations garbage. Still a better candidate than Bernie Sanders. Much better. Andrew Yang, not exactly, I don't believe his economic policies, I think, would have been a disaster. Also better than Bernie Sanders. And I write here, instead of confronting the press and demanding that it substantiate its allegations, Sanders has fed the bears. Recently in Nevada, when asked about harassment by his supporters of rival Pete Buttigieg's supporters, Bernie deflected, saying, not being too paranoid, all of us remember 2016, and what we remember is efforts by Russians and others to try to interfere in our election and divide us up. I'm not saying that's happening. But if he's not saying that, then why bring it up? By invoking Russia, Bernie Sanders is attempting to prop up what he knows is a major vulnerability of his campaign, which is the violent and totalitarian tendencies of some of his supporters. In January, when staffers in Iowa and South Carolina were exposed on video to be open Marxist-Leninists who believe in revolution by force, if not by the ballot, and re-education camps, Sanders' campaign did not fire the people in question, but merely had them protect their social media accounts, even in the case of one who had been arrested on a DUI. One possible reason that the campaign has turned a blind eye to these people is that at this stage of the primary campaign, it is too difficult to hire dedicated personnel with the willingness to work in those specific states. Another possible reason could be that a series of embarrassing firings would alienate his core constituency, young radical socialists. He was afraid to alienate people who were they were a bad influence on his campaign. People like that Kyle Jurek from, I think his name was Kyle Jurek from Iowa. If that's the image that people are seeing of your campaign, then you deserve to lose. There's a person who was just an embarrassment. Look, I'm also in my 30s. I've never been arrested for DUI. I've never called for revolution in gulags. I would never vote for someone like that. Imagine people who were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s hearing someone talk like that about what they're going to do once they take power. Of course, they'd vote for Joe Biden. They'd vote for anyone over Bernie if this is the type of person who he has on his campaign. I'm not saying that Bernie believes in that type of stuff. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But the fact is that he didn't fire that guy. He didn't get rid of those people. He didn't say, look, we're going to take a stand here and show why democratic socialism is different from Marxism-Leninism. He could have tried and used that as an illustration, at least throw some sort of, do something like that. That would have been a gesture I think would have been maybe a success. Maybe I'm wrong. But it just kept compounding. It says, Moreover, there is a distinction to be made between episodes of so-called harassment, such as online name-calling and taunting, which is an intrinsic part of modern social media, and actual violent incidents such as the assault committed by one Bernie supporter in recent weeks against a man in a Black Guns Matter t-shirt at one of his events. You guys remember that. That was only a couple weeks ago. Whatever the reason, Bernie is shielding offending supporters and staff by being less than honest, which is part of a shameful pattern of behavior. And then I went through all of the different issues that he had, including. But by the way, I put in a little bit about the John Mattis hoax, but that's not even the worst. There was the time. The Helsinki speech of July 2018, that was insane. After the Mueller report, Bernie called for more investigations into the president. He didn't defend any of the people who were, for no apparent reason, were convicted of process crimes like Roger Stone, George Papadopoulos, and another person, Alex Vanderswan, who nobody ever talks about. He got a couple days. I think he got 10 days in prison for lying about something, not saying something incorrectly to the FBI. You get thrown in prison for 10 days. These people, they have their lives turned upside down, and Bernie Sanders doesn't care. Julian Assange betrayed him. Okay, so this is all just him looking out for himself and not actually standing up for a lot of the stuff that people respected him for. People jumped on his train at the time because he would stand up for the individual, for the citizen, against the state persecution apparatus, and he doesn't do it anymore. He just doesn't care. So yeah, I think it's a great thing that Bernie Sanders lost. I hope that he doesn't win another primary. You know what? At this point, who cares if Bernie or Biden is the nominee? They're both. But Joe Biden is completely fried. The guy is fucked. He's not going to be anywhere near a coherent candidate. They're going to have to work much harder with him. Bernie Sanders, if he would have been the nominee, that would have been another total wipeout. Other than that, I think I'm done for today. I gotta go. But thanks for hanging out. We got E. Michael, Len McCarthy, Nick's Radio, Zatoichi, Ophir, Chris Krull. I think that's all of you that are in the chat at least, and Shirley Rose Lee from the Bronx. But yeah, thanks. And maybe I think next week there might be there's the primary here in Ohio. I have a school levy that I'm going to be, so I am going to go vote because there's a school levy up voting no. By the way, if you're going to vote on anything, you might as well go vote on school levies and always vote no. And that's about it. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can also find me at all of these different. I had a cowlick this whole time and none of you said anything. Here we go. So you can find me in all these different places, and I will talk to you later.
day my confusion grows. Every time I see you falling, I get down on my knees and pray. I'm waiting for that final moment to say the words that I can't say. I feel fine and I feel good. I'm feeling like I never should. Whenever I get this way, I just don't know what to say. Why can't we be ourselves like we were yesterday? I'm not sure what this could mean. I don't think you're what you seem. I do admit to myself that if I hurt someone else, then I'll never see what we're meant to be. Every time I see you falling, I get down on my knees and pray. I'm waiting for that final moment. You say the words that I can't say. Every time I see